So today we're going to be continuing to take a look at a scenario where civilization starts over. We are now on episode 27 of this series, and in the last episode we saw the world after World War I, and a lot of things happened, including all of the continents being fully filled in. So North America, South America, and all of Oceania were completely colonized, and there is no longer any blank space on the world map. We also saw a war break out over here in Central Asia, and most notably we saw the union between the red and the blue team. Now if you didn't know that happened, then you didn't watch the full video. Shame on you. I got you. If you didn't watch the video all the way, I got you. No big deal though. That's all that happened with it. They just united. But we will be expanding upon that today in this video, along with looking at the world as it goes into what is known as this timeline's version of the Great Depression. If you guys do enjoy today's video, make sure to leave a like on it and subscribe to the channel if you're new. All the support is greatly appreciated. And let's go ahead and jump straight into the scenario. All right, so we will be starting off with this new union that just took place. And like I said in the last video, I briefly explained that this was a part of the blue team and the red team's plan. Ever since the blue team had that Holy Cities Alliance rebellion, this has been being cooked up, and none of the world was able to figure out this plan, and it was a complete surprise to everybody. But the goal of this union is of course to restore the glory of the old empire, which was, the union between the red and the blue team that took place way back when civilization first formed. So why do these guys want to do that? That civilization is from thousands of years ago. Why do they care? Well, they do know that civilization stemmed from this area, specifically down over here. This is where humanity began in this timeline, and the purple team is very aware of that, and they basically have the assumption that they are the country, and there should only be one country in the world, and that is of course the one that started it all, so this union. And the route for this might seem kind of obvious, but they will be smarter about it. The red team back a couple episodes ago did go berserk and kind of exploded outwards. That was their own attempt at this, and that was because the ruler of the red team didn't really align with this plan, so he just kind of did it on his own. Didn't work. Whatever, it was fine. They were still able to unite in the end, just under a smaller empire. But there's your kind of lore dump / backstory for this country. So the first thing that they will be doing is going after any other country that stands in their way in this peninsula, and unfortunately that is going to include these two guys down here. They're not a part of any major alliances. In fact, there are no major alliances other than the 4 over here, and to be honest, no one's going to really stand in the way of this alliance. It's very powerful. Probably top 10 at this point. I might be a little bit more. I don't know. I'd have to re-look at the power rankings. Maybe we'll do that at the end of the video. But the purple team will start to send their armies into the orange team, focusing in on the southern areas where most of their population lies. They make a quick campaign over to the capital city and have no issue capturing it. And from here, the rest of the armies will start to sink in to the more unpopulated areas to capture any major towns which may be there. But all in all, there is no challenge for the purple team in taking out this small country, which has actually been here for a few episodes now. Nonetheless, they fall, and the campaign moves on into the green country, who is a little bit stronger than the orange country, but a major disadvantage for them is that their capital is right on the border, so that thing is captured pretty quickly, and from there, it's basically the same kind of collapse as the orange team. Purple team troops zoom into this country and take over all of the major province areas, leaving the mostly unpopulated areas, and then over time they will work to wipe these areas out. So the purple team is successful in their first campaign, and we can go ahead and take a look at a peace treaty, which will of course look something like this, with these two countries being fully annexed by the purple team. And I did kind of give a name to this thing. I called it the Old Empire, and I think that's a pretty cool name, so we're going to be sticking with it. The Old Empire will completely annex the Arabian Peninsula, and now they have an interesting challenge. They obviously don't want to go after Africa because, well, there's a lot of European powers here, and I'm not sure if it's exactly the old empire's plan to get on the bad side of Europe, but you do have options up north, like with this red team. Ukraine, this area recently just got extremely nerfed. You can even go into Central Asia where there's not any strong countries. The Lime team, of course, just got destroyed by their own civil war in the last episode, or it was the episode before, but they got even more destroyed in the last episode. And then they're also rebuilding, so it might be a great time to jump onto that. But for now, the purple team will just chill out, and we can take a look at some events elsewhere in the world. And yes, college very soon. I'm scared. This will be the last civilization video that I probably edit in this room. I might do the next one as well, just to give myself some time. But it's getting close, and I have to pre-record a bunch of these videos today. I also have to. Okay, so let me just back up a little bit. I'm recording this on a Friday. Usually I record on Thursdays and edit Friday, but I didn't get to it yesterday. So I'm recording and editing this video on Friday, and I'm also going to record hopefully 5 more episodes of this, and hopefully even more than that, just to give myself some time in college. Give me maybe like a month or two, just to I can edit the videos there, but maybe not record for a little bit. That's kind of my plan. Hopefully I can get that to work out. Anyway, back to the video. So the purple team is obviously going to be a threat for a lot of countries. Let's head over to East Asia. We really haven't done anything over here in a hot second, and that's because it's mostly been pretty peaceful. But we'll go to Japan first, because there's a campaign happening on this island. And this campaign is being led by the blue team, and their idea is to basically unite all of southern Japan under one empire. And luckily for them, they are the strongest of the southern Japanese isles, and they're not going to have too much of an issue doing this, as they invade into the orange country and are able to knock them out pretty easily. From here, they'll move on to the green country, taking over their claim on this other island over here, and then sending their armies into two different areas, meeting up and splitting this country into two. Finally, they'll capture their capital and then the rest of that country. Next up is the dark red country, and once again, they have no issue going in and completely taking this thing over. And at the end of the day, you can see they have no issue in uniting southern Japan under one empire. But now comes an era of toughness, because you have to assimilate all of these groups under one. Of course, the Japanese isles were colonized and settled by the Koreans, so there isn't much like racial or ethnic differences here, but the cultures, of course, have been doing their own thing for as long as they've been split. So that is going to be an issue to kind of accommodate, so they will spend some time doing that before they maybe look elsewhere at the rest of the Japanese isles. But now we jump over to Europe and do our daily Britain update, because it has been a hot second. And what would you know, there's going to be more blue success here, as the central blue country will launch an invasion into both the orange country and the green country, wiping them out when they are weak. And that was a pretty simple daily Britain update. Once again, these two superpowers on the outside, the brown and red team, are really preventing anything else from really going down here, other than the usual fiasco amongst the countries which were unaffected by these two. But now we jump over here to Eastern Europe, and we're gonna have something happen here for once, because not a lot usually happens in this area. Simply enough though, the Russian country is going to launch an invasion on the orange country, and that is to get access to the Baltic Sea. So Russian troops enter into this country and have no issue at all. They are far stronger than the orange country, and I don't think the orange country has ever even seen military experience in combat before, so they are very easily wiped out by the Russians. And going along with the simple theme in this episode, they will of course fully annex the orange country. So now the map is looking something like this, and this event is going to kind of inspire some stuff over here. Some stuff will start to get cooked up, but we won't show it just yet, because we have to tackle another major event in the world, and that is going to be the Great Depression. Okay, so in real life, the Great Depression started with the crash of the stock market. Also, you know, post-war World War I wasn't the greatest in Europe. Here, it's a little bit different. You know, the stronger countries are able to rebuild a lot better than the countries in our timeline were able to. But with the Lime team falling, the #1, you know, exporter, importer, economic power in the world, that kind of has some ripples across the world. And it did take a few years for it to fully manifest into the Great Depression, but it's finally here. The stock market crashes, which I don't know what country would be the host of it. You know, the United States in our timeline, that's where the stock market crashed, but maybe, you know, it's the brown country in this one. And by the way, I'm not doing a very good job at keeping up with like the inventions and the technology in this series, but we're at the point now where we have the early stages of vehicles. So, you know, like the Ford cars, it's the T something, how did I forget? Model T. We also have the beginning stages of the airplanes. Now in real life, in World War I, there was kind of almost planes, but it was like at the end of the war, they weren't really used in combat. They were, you know, still too early to really use. But we're now progressing to the point where they might be able to be used in combat very soon, just not yet. I want to also do a ranking of technology, so we'll do that here in a little bit, along with the power rankings. But now, like I said, the Great Depression has taken effect. The stock market has crashed. Banks are closing across the globe, and countries are, of course, suffering. And the areas getting hit the hardest are going to be most of the Asian countries over here, and a lot of Eastern and Southern Europe. Now, Western Europe, they are also, of course, feeling the effects of it. It's hurting their economy. They are laying people off. Unemployment is, of course, through the roof, much like it was in real life. Now, to scale them, I'm going to say that the Great Depression in this timeline and in real life are exactly the same. The effects of which countries are going through are going to be exactly the same. So it's not better or worse. But yeah, so what goes on with this? Well, like I said, Central Asia is getting hit pretty hard. In fact, so hard that these countries are on the verge of experiencing a complete economic collapse, whereas, you know, money is way inflated and is worthless. But these two countries aren't able to really adapt and change to it. So what they're going to do is they are going to attempt to unite together under one country, thinking that the increased population and unity would fix their really high unemployment and inflation rates. Unfortunately though, that is not the case. And the Union under one, which is going to try to combine two foreign currencies into one while experiencing a Great Depression, that's not going to work out too well. So this country will literally collapse politically. There is no more government. It fell apart. It goes into anarchy, and well, some countries on the outside are going to take advantage of this. This gold country right here will be one of the first to do so. They will send their armies into the two large provinces of this country and attempt to make a name for themselves. However, there is one small issue, and that is that they can't afford to pay their armies to do this. And, well, they also start to collapse. They will attempt to pay their armies, however, the armies will desert. And what we have here is kind of like a rogue state being formed with no official government. However, the military is mostly camping out here, and it's most of the gold team's military that is lost. They lose about 94% of their forces, which, not good. That leaves like the National Guard to defend the capital. So these guys are extremely vulnerable right now. But nobody's going to make a move because of what they just saw happen. You know, a large military just said, you know what, screw you. We're going to start our own country. So countries are fearful of that. And this large pink team territory is just kind of left here in an anarchist state. And it will be that way for a while until the Chinese team makes a plan to divide this territory amongst the outside forces. And in this treaty, a lot of countries will be getting some land from the pink team, in which they don't even have to send their armies to, so they don't have to worry about them deserting. So let's take a look at how they exactly decide to divide this area up. Guys, I'm so happy I found a new way to kind of divide up the provinces. If I select the outlines of the provinces in this layer and then go back to the main layer, I can do this. And then I can just color these in. It's beautiful. Anyway, in this treaty here, we have the provinces and country being split up like this, with the Chinese country and the seafoam green looking country getting the most out of it, but the red team also gets two provinces over here. All right, so at the end of the day, this is what it looks like, all divided up, and we can see that this green country up here is becoming extremely large. Now, extremely large doesn't mean extremely powerful, so they might be, you know, weak to any foreign invaders, but we don't really have to worry about that in this time period right now, because invading countries will get you lost your whole army, so you don't really want to do that. Now, you might be wondering, why did this central country right here not get any land out of the treaty? Well, that's because they just decided to go ahead and join the Chinese country. The Chinese country is benefiting a lot from this event. Now, you might be wondering, how come, you know, other countries aren't able to do this right now? Well, the Chinese country is doing this in a very unique way, in which they are kind of, you know, gatekeeping their main provinces from the new area which they just got. So they're not really worried about, you know, changing the currency over. You know, of course, they're sending people to kind of, you know, grasp it and assimilate it into their territory. But they will hold off until after the Great Depression to fully integrate these territories into their country. So this might inspire some outside countries to also take a similar approach. But the Chinese country is, of course, one of the stronger countries in the world. So maybe not every single other country would be able to do something as such. Only some of the other top 10 powers. But now we jump over to North America, where we have a first happening, and that first is going to be a country getting its independence. Right now, there are 0 independent countries in North America. There are 2 in South America, but there is 0 as of now in North America until today, in which this small colony over here will be given independence by the what color is that? Snow blue? Whatever. This Iberian country will give them independence, and that's because they want to try to solve their economical issues as soon as possible. Maybe, you know, giving away this land will fix some of that issue. They're allocating funds to maintaining and keeping this colony, so instead of using those funds overseas, how about you use them domestically, and maybe they'll fix some issues, who knows? So that is their approach, and they will give independence to this colony. But it's not that simple. This colony will not just be one large country. It's going to be split into multiple different ones, which will look something like this. So these young countries here will be thrown out into the cruel, depressed world. Good luck, but your capitals will be here. They will be here, over here, and finally in the only major city in this island right here. So 4 new countries. Yeah, North America. Yay. So now we jump over to Asia, and we'll be looking at these 4 countries right here. These guys have surprisingly a lot in common, in that they stem from the Vietnamese country, but also that they are they're under the same currency, and that currency is the Chinese currency. The Chinese country in this timeline is pretty far ahead for its time. You know, they have countries outside using their currency, like the red team uses their currency, which is pretty impressive. They also have a lot of these southern countries down here using their currency, and then the blue team was using the lime team's currency. I don't know what they're doing now. Like in real life, if the USA just collapsed their currency would also collapse, and that would really mess up the world, which, you know, in this timeline is kind of why we went into the Great Depression, because the Lime team just kind of, you know, disappeared. So what did they do? Well, they're going to do what a lot of other countries have been doing at this point, and that is uniting together in an attempt to kind of stop any future economical snap. Sorry, there's a lot on my mind right now. I can't really focus. And that's not a bad thing. What's on my mind is what I'm going to be doing in these upcoming episodes. I just got like a bunch of really good ideas and I wrote them all down. So now I'm excited to record these videos because World War II, whoo, it's going to be good. I got that whole thing planned out while I was recording this. That's how weird I am. I think of videos while I'm recording and talking. Is that normal, or am I like kind of mentally not okay? Who knows? Anyway, these three countries will unite into one country, and I'm really struggling to think of colors to use here. I wish I could use yellow a lot more, but the issue is that you cannot see the capital cities when I use that. So usually when I use yellow, I use like a slightly different color, so this will actually work just fine. So this orange country is formed as a union, and similar to the Chinese country, the union is in place, but they're not going to work on the assimilation and kind of any other major roadblocks that happen when a union takes place until after the depression is over, and that kind of helps them exist. The Chinese country will also send support down to these guys to keep them stable and together because they are on good terms with the Chinese country. Now, the only remaining issue is the blue country, who is invited to and wants to join the union. However, due to that currency issue, it's kind of hard to integrate them right now because they're using a broken currency that doesn't work. Inflation in this country is like some of the worst in the world, and they're low key on the collapse watch. So they will slowly but surely integrate them in, kind of switching their currency over to that of the Chinese country, but at the same time that's also inflating them. So they have to do it in a very careful way. You know, you take away a little bit of that money, put in some of your own money, inflation goes up, you kind of let that, you know, simmer and cook for a little bit, and then you do it again. It's not the most practical of ways to do it, but at this point in the timeline, it's what they have to do to stop that country from completely collapsing. Capital city wise, it will be over here on the East Coast. And now we can see what the world is going through. The small countries are suffering the most, and there's not a lot of small countries left, to be honest. Of course, you just had the big bundle that just exploded over here, but those guys are new. We're talking about the old world small countries, so like the guys over here in Central Asia, and then of course Eastern Europe, which is where we'll be attacking next. Now what we have happening here is yet another invasion by the Russian country, and they will invade into the purple country, completely wiping it out of existence and also causing some issues from within. The people are aware that invading countries during such a time is not a good thing to do. It hurts your economy a lot. And at this time, the leader of the Russian country, which was so popular, you know, the guy that was pulling populations from other countries, he's dead. He's long dead. His son is the ruler of the country now, and he's older in age, and he never really lived up to the hype of his father. You know, he did lead his country through World War I, which was good for him, but the role in World War I wasn't really too popular amongst the people. And it's a big, you know how the US is referred to as the big mixing pot country, all the different cultures mixing into one country. It works out in the United States, but it's not working too well in this country, and that's because it's a lot earlier on in the timeline, and the leader isn't strong enough to have the people overlook that. And all of these different cultures from all these outside countries are now not mixing so well, and the Russian country is on the pack watch. So they will go into their own rebuilding stage. The leader of the country will shut down all of their borders, which is kind of an unpopular look for him from within, since all these people within this country do have, you know, family in these other countries that they like to visit. Of course, they fled from a lot of these countries, but that doesn't mean they don't want to go back and, you know, see their family. But he will now work on an economical plan to hopefully revive the Russian economy. But some countries simply aren't buying that, and specifically these countries over here. These guys were leftovers of World War I believe so, and they are descendants of the Yellow Team country, which was on episode 1. They started out over where did the Yellow Team? I think they started here. I mean, this whole area could be watered down to the Yellow Team culture. I think that's what the religion is here. The lime green is from the Yellow Team. And I know I said I would never bring up religion ever again, but here we are. This is a very outdated map, but it isn't necessarily inaccurate, you know? and also the colors don't match with the corresponding country, so don't get fooled by that. But you can see that the old empire is under one religion. You can see that the purple team's religion does still linger about. The yellow team's religion does too, and so does the green team's. I really should have made the, colors match. I didn't. I don't know why I didn't. But the lime team's religion is still very strong, and so is that of the brown team / Western Europe's. But like I said, these guys aren't buying it, and they are going to unite into one country, and that is to hopefully defend against any future attacks by the Russian team. And some of you might be looking at your screen screaming, don't do it, don't do it, because as you can see, this is the state of Poland, and we have a Germany and we have a Russia. So I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen, but this area tends to not be treated so well in times of war. But we'll have to see what happens with World War II. Now, World War II, it's on the horizon. I'm not going to say how it starts or why it starts or when it's going to start, but just know that it will be happening within the next couple of episodes, because World War I and World War II really weren't that far apart in real life. It was about 18 years. Anyway, the Polish state is born, and that will be the end of today's episode. So I really hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to show some support by leaving a like and subscribing to the channel if you're new. I have a bunch of these videos to record. However, I need to edit this one and post it first. So yes, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. And of course, thank you to all our super fans. This includes Arentine, Georgie Badev, Serminator, German Edits, HammerToad45, Connor the Gamer, Poland Country Ball, Nevada Garbage Trucks, and DW Cool Dude. Once again, thank you guys.